My brother and I were in our pajamas, snuggled under a heavy blanket on the couch, watching Mr. Magoo's version of Dickens' Christmas Carol. The smell of burnt popcorn was coming out of the kitchen. Oh, that familiar smell. Mom was trying hard to keep all things normal and all the traditions the way they normally were. But the truth of the matter was, nothing was normal that Christmas. The ghost of Christmas present had brought unforeseen news the night before. My dad had been subpoenaed to appear as a witness in a trial concerning a traffic accident that we had been involved in earlier that summer. The trial was to be held in Watertown, New York, some 4 or 5 hours away. It had seemed when he left that it would be a fairly open and shut case, and he should be home in a day or two. A week had passed, and the news last night was that the trial had taken an unforeseen turn, and there was a more than betting chance that he wouldn't be home before Christmas. We were devastated, but we did our best to keep things going. I never heard the back door. All I remember is that upon the arrival of the ghost of Christmas future, that hulking shape stood in the doorway to the living room, covered with snow. Dad was home. He had come back. And Christmas was safe. I think most of us are wondering what Christmas will be like this year. For many of us, gathering together as Christians to herald in the birth of Christ will not happen in person. Time-honored family traditions have gone by the wayside as more and more of us are quarantined. Many of us will mourn the death of loved ones or the hospitalization of those most dear to us. It is scary times, and Christmas feels like it may be in jeopardy. There was great speculation for first century Christians. The promise was that Jesus would return, not as a little child, but as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But what was taking him so long? Had God changed God's mind? Had he gotten lost along the way? The temple had been destroyed. Could the end of the world be far behind? And yet still, the world languished. It troubled the communities that Paul preached to. It troubled the gospel writers, and it would trouble early Christians for centuries. Where are you, Jesus? What's taking so long? And they began to look for signs and wonders. Is it time? Jesus reminded the disciples and us in Mark's gospel that even he didn't know the time. God alone had that agenda. What he could say is that it was time to be about the things that we are called to do. To continue to proclaim the good news that the kingdom was at hand. to turn around and to believe in that good news, to continue to practice justice, to live in mercy, to treat one another with loving kindness, to proclaim peace on earth and goodwill among your neighbors, to break bread together, to baptize, and to do the work of the gospel. Do these things, and Christ will come. Yes, that is the guarantee, again this Christmas, that despite COVID, Christ will show up. He will be there in the proclamation of millions of preachers. He will be there in the midst of that beautiful story from Luke's Gospel. He will be there for some of us in a piece of bread, a sip of wine. He will be with us in a body this year scattered, but still one. Yes, he will come once again. Perhaps he will even come as we have prayed this Advent, not as the little child, but as the Christ of Christmas future, unexpected and mysteriously. The King shall come. Who knows what Christmas will bring? The King shall come when morning dawns, and light triumphant breaks, when beauty gilds the eastern hills, and life to joy awakes. Oh, brighter than the rising sun, when Morse victorious rose, and left the lonesome place of death, despite the rage of foes. Oh, brighter than that glorious morn shall dawn upon our race, the day when Christ in splendor comes, and we shall see his face. The King shall come when morning dawns, and light and beauty brings. Hail Christ the Lord, your people pray. Come quickly, King of Kings.